Charleston County came back and said she wasn't allowed to work for us and do this, so, the quote went up by $18,000. So we're just requesting the code enforcement module, to our existing InterGov program that we already have that handles all of our permits, and everything for the building side. So this is gonna allow our officers to document violations, issue notices, update cases in real time, and it's all going to be in one centralized space. Right now, we have about 4 different places that it goes. A rental strikes folder, the master PID, there's a paper file. We're trying to consolidate everything into one program. So when said property has an issue, we can upload it to that property. We'll be able to see permits, we'll be able to see renovation, request, we'll be able to see demolition. Everything will be in one place, which is gonna be nice. And so we do have the money that is left over from the website project funds. We have $18,000 left over from that. So we're asking for that. It's gonna improve efficiency, accountability, service delivery. Also, we are consistently going over our Microsoft data storage, and our OneDrive, which is, the STR department has tried to start, implementing or creating scanning all of our documents into the OneDrive. That's a lot. We had five file cabinets, so we are down to the last file cabinet, but we are consistently going over, which then in turn causes more money to BC3. So I think it's gonna eliminate some of that, and it's gonna help. You'll see there's iPads in here. I did put 2 iPads in my budget for this past year for my team. This is gonna allow real-time documentation. So when they're out in the field, instead of taking a picture with their phone, coming back, emailing it, printing it, whatnot, they're gonna be able to take those inspection photos. If there is a life safety issue or something for the building department, they'll be able to have that. It will upload right then and there to the program. And if there's a violation letter, all they have to do is check the violation and hit print, and that violation letter is going to print here in the office. So when they get back, or possibly someone here, it goes out instead of them having to come back into the office and create that letter and that document. So it's gonna really decrease time too, and it's gonna make it more efficient, I think, for us, for the residents, for everyone involved.
Should help a lot on the look back. Even in 10 years, we'll have a nice history on a property that for FOIA or whatever else comes up.
Right.
Who has access to this database?
I will have access, the building department will have access, our code enforcement officers.
It's not public, it's city staff.
Right.
It's not public, so,
But you have licenses or so many seats on the, okay.
yes.
And you've got here 2 different sizes of the iPads, 11-inch and the 13-inch.
Yeah, I just put the prices in there for both of those. When I originally priced this for budget last year, I added in, I believe, $3,000. They were like $11.99 then. So it's just a matter of what's available. I have talked to Verizon, and we can add those on to our public safety. What we have for public safety is $20 a month. Next year, they are coming out with a new program that will not cost us anything additional to add, but if there's someone that wants to use like a tablet or whatnot, I think Chris prefers a tablet, and versus an iPad. But for now, it's an iPad.
Okay,
I have just a couple of questions. Does this interface at all with public safety?
It does not.
So there's basically no. Okay.
No, but what happens is when we get the noise violations, we pull the CAD reports, and then we follow up with those if it's for a short-term rental property or whatnot, so we can follow up for strike purposes and whatnot. We can add all of that into this system.
So public
that
safety,
will-
it basically connects to this, and then you work with that data. So that would be part of it?
Public
There's
safety.
actually a firewall.
That's what I wanted to
separation
know.
Yeah,
Is there
so
a firewall?
Yes,
Okay.
they do not,
Okay,
but
so
we
I-
get the information and then upload
Okay,
it.
so just to be clear, there is a firewall, I just wanted to be clear about that. Secondly, it's just a budget question. So the website monies, I don't know if this is a question for you, Lee. So how much of that have we spent? I can't remember what we started at.
So the website that we just came contract with was right at, I think.
It was at
so-
75.
Right around 75, and we just paid, it was budgeted at 125. The initial
That's what I-
contract was 75, but we just paid the initial contract plus the first year's maintenance, and that was.
What, right at 90.
Okay, so we had 125, you worked your magic, and 18,000 is coming out of the remaining of the original. So there is
Right.
no change in the budget essentially. Okay, I just need to be clear about that. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
When, you said about like storage and how we keep going over, is all this like gonna be cloud-based, or do we have servers here?
It's cloud-based on OneDrive, and this has its own cloud base, so we'll be utilizing a different cloud-based server for this. It'll take some of the data that we have on the
Right.
OneDrive, and that should save us money.
Yeah,
We've
so-
been working with this company on the permitting and inspection side, on just the building side since 2018.
It's Tyler, right?
We always ran into trouble because we had so much data, and we had to buy server after server, and
That
got-
video adds up too.
That got very expensive.
Yeah, and a lot of our stuff that's on the OneDrive now, we'll be able to transfer over to the system and clear up in OneDrive.
Yes, that'll help a lot.
Excellent.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you. All right, next up is the second east bathroom trailer replacement. Eric, I think you're still up. This is something we've been working on for a while. We've actually put the other bathroom up for bid on GoGo. Somebody's willing to pay us to take it off, so that's
Now,
nice.
drag Philip up here, take this.
Can I turn it to an ADU and make sure I can use it?
It's a quality of
I
life
think
thing.
there's a negotiation there. So I think you probably have seen, I think everybody knows that second east trailer is at end of life. We're actually already have it listed for sale on Gov Deals. This trailer, the key benefit, it'll be the same kind of quality, nice and shiny and new, but it will be gravity only. So the problem we've had with the previous one, which Phil can attest to for years now, has been it's all a pump system, and it gets jammed up with things. How many times per summer have you guys had to work on it? Many times this summer. And it's finally, now the master control board is shot, and we don't know how to fix it. Even the people that sold it to us don't seem to know how to fix it. By going with gravity like a.
What, $3,000?
We're
You're here for
auctioning
it?
it off, so we're saying, there's your ADU, use it
You
somewhere
can
else.
buy it now for 10.
It's exciting, and I think, if we can go forward with it.
Those get to sewer.
We
I
are,
think the plan is to go ahead and get it in place before the peak season,
But it's a two restroom, not a three, right?
2 with an ADA.
Two and an ADA.
Yes, sir. 3.
And that runs into the sewer, right? Sewer.
Yes, sir, the tap's already been there, we've been pumping into the tap, now it can just go gravity in it.
So when the other one's taken away, we can just put this one right on top.
So then do.
Any minor, modifications we can handle in-house, so Philip's ready for that.
And so the good news about the budget, you might wanna get into those details, is that 48,000 is covered by TDPC.
Correct.
Okay, and then the ADA compliance reserve account, you pull some funds out of.
We happen to have just enough.
That's what I was heading. So, that's actually serendipity.
Budget neutral.
So, you really pulled it all together, and
Thank
Great.
you, TVPC.
that's wonderful news.
And they did buy the original trailer too, that might be something to note, that was, all paid for by TVPC the first time.
So then, once this is approved, what's the timeline to have it function?
I
mean,
would say a couple months, realistically. Now, they're telling
Just
us
to
a
be
lot faster, but I wanna buffer that.
So just to be fair, by peak season?
Yes, for sure by season.
Okay, so I just wanted to confirm that, like, that is our goal by peak season.
I mean,
Wonderful.
they're telling us if we issue a PO tomorrow, they have it to us in 2 weeks, but I don't wanna promise.
It's all right, as long as,
Under promise.
That's why we're doing it.
yeah, that's, and that's why we wouldn't wait for other budgetary cycles. We need it now for peak season. Excellent.
We'd like to get it in.
Good news.
And we're not gonna start the order until the current trailer's sold and removed. Because otherwise we have to take the current trailer somewhere, which would probably be the clam farm. And we don't think we need to store the old bathroom trailer at the clam farm. So the bid ends in January, right? Like, right at the end of January is when the bid ends.
Yeah.
Then we'll sell it, and that might take a week, and someone will give them 10 days to come get it. And when it's sold and we give them that 10 days, we're gonna start the order.
You have confidence,
So-
Aaron,
so-
that it's gonna be sold?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we already have a $3,000 bid, so.
All right.
So-
We'll take it if
So, the bid, just so I have this clear, the bid isn't like they're going to, like, move it. We have to find a seller that would pick it
Oh,
up.
no,
That's
whoever
part of
wins the
the-
bid's gonna
That's,
come
that's
get
what I
it.
wanna make
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
So, part of the bid is to basically remove it.
Yeah.
Yes.
they're
Okay.
buying it and taking it away.
Yeah, that's what I was, so,
It's a pretty good deal.
yeah, I mean, I think that's great that they remove it. Thank you.
All right, see, proposed language to prohibit the release of balloons, the use of plastic straws on the agenda. I believe you've got that.
So a few council members have expressed interest in banning balloons and/or straws. And this is just a starting place. I want to get some feedback from all of y'all before we open up the conversation to restaurants and other stakeholders who would be affected by this. I have some data that wasn't in your packet from the aquarium's Folly specific about the trash that both straws and balloons bring, and so I'm gonna give you that real quick. In the last 5 years, the total percentage of straws that's been found in Folly has been 3%. It was 3%, which is already a high number. It's increased to 5%, and the raw number is 6,377 straws in that last 5 years. And that's been from all over the island, but the aquarium says that more specifically comes from the beach and it's on the tides and under the pier. And then, this is the list of other beachfront communities. Everybody's banned straws but us, and the aquarium said that we have a higher percentage of straws than other beachfront communities in South Carolina that's found in trash pickups. For balloons, the balloons count since 2016 is 559, which does not sound like a high number, but remember, it's not, it's a specialty item, it's not something that's used every day. So it's still a high number. And in the example ordinance that I think I put in the packet, I only wrote an example for banning balloon releases, but depending on what y'all are interested in, there's also the opportunity to ban balloons at parades, because they get loose and end up in the waterways from parades, city events, anything like that, all events.
Real estate people,
Pardon me?
real estate signs, I've seen those,
Oh, good,
a lot of those, yeah.
so.
Is it time for questions?
Feedback, yeah, sure.
You said 5% of what? 5% of the beach sweeps, 5% of what?
The total litter that has been collected in Folly Beach.
Over 5 years or during?
It's 3% 5 years ago, and it's increased to 5% today.
Right, but I guess I'm asking of what? As far as what is picked up, what's at beach sweeps, percentage of what? I know three is different than
Everything
five.
that the aquarium has picked up.
Okay, everything that the aquarium has
Everything the aquarium has
picked up, okay. Now, the other thing, when I look at this great graphic,
That's from the Post and Courier, I didn't do that.
Well-
And it's from about a year ago, so there's one update to it. Charleston County has now banned the extra thick plastic bags, but
oh, I'm
otherwise.
loving it. Somehow I might have missed something because I thought we did talk about disposable cutlery in the past. And we ended up with it on request? We did?
They don't offer it anymore, the people have to ask for it.
Okay, so that on request. And then, the other question that I had for Folly, you answered it.
Okay, one more thing about this, where it has balloons banned by Isle of Palms and Folly, we obviously only ban them on the beach. Isle of Palms is the same way, I looked up what their balloon ban was, it's just on the beach.
On the straws, have we talked to the business community about expense, prices of going away from plastic to paper or whatever?
That's part of the next conversation.
Okay, okay.
But one thing the aquarium did warn against is that a lot of the alternatives that are offered that are not plastic straws are kind of some greenwashing where they actually don't break down any faster than the regular plastic ones, and that they would prefer a ban just completely
Completely.
instead of alternatives.
These will be two separate items that have come to us. The only thing I thought about was, on the balloons and balloon releases, maybe go a little bit farther, like, Chinese lanterns where they have like, the paper balloons and they put a candle in
We
there.
already prohibit those.
Do we? Okay. And also, there's also like floating lanterns, so ban anything that is scheduled to be released and not intended to be 100% retrieved.
Okay.
And then as we said, the next step, at least for the straws, because of the impact, you're going to access business owners, restaurant people, that's the next step. And then eventually you come back to us with the proposal. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just to note, it looks like our prohibition on fire lanterns and floating lanterns, et cetera, is only the special events ordinance. As part of, yeah, okay.
But anything that has inert gas in it should be qualified as a balloon, whether it looks like a Chinese lantern or it's a plastic balloon or a Mylar, it doesn't really matter. If it's gonna rise, it's a balloon. I actually think you should take it to a complete ban of all balloons, island-wide.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. All right, last one, we have Anderson with the review of proposed handbook amendments.
Last and probably the longest. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So a couple days ago, y'all were sent over the rough draft for the update, the 2025 update of the Folly Beach Personnel Handbook. As I outlined in my memo, there's a couple different reasons for the changes that I have here. Some of them are recommended by our employment attorney. Some of them, I believe, are fixes to our processes that make the day-to-day a little bit easier for us. The others are kind of some ideas that I had about the future running of City Hall. So I would like to go in essentially change by change and to go in and see if y'all had any notes for me before it goes to a vote next month. So without further ado, I wanted to start on page 2. This is Article 1, General Policies is where we'll start. So this kind of starts a good introduction for the ones that essentially council recommends. They just recommended an extra clause on the end of the equal employment opportunity, essentially banning retaliation. The legal ones are pretty straightforward. But if y'all have any notes, I'll take them.
It's really not specifically about this, but before you begin,
Sure.
it would be helpful for you to explain the history, how we got here, in the sense that this has been a working document.
Yes.
So on and so forth, and also the resources that you used. I know you used Massey, you probably did some research with some like-minded
Sure.
municipalities. That would be a good intro.
Sure, yeah, so you are correct that this is a living document. They recommend a legal counsel review it every couple of years, but they also recommend a top-to-bottom rework like this every 5 years. So the last time we did this was late 2019 into 2020. COVID kind of got in the way of some of that stuff. So this was worked on in 2025, and obviously we're voting on in 2026. As far as what this is made of, this is largely based on the Massey Model Handbook. They actually have a handbook template that all municipalities, that they recommend that the municipalities use. The degree to which municipalities use that one, it kind of varies to township to township, city to city. But I used the model handbook as essentially a starting point, and then I went out and I got handbooks from a lot of our sister agencies, James Island, Mount Pleasant, North Charleston, some of the coastal islands as well. And then after going through that, I had a workshop with some of the department heads. This was a while ago, this was last year. Got some ideas from them, and then I compiled all the changes that we wanted to make, and then I had a sit-down meeting with our labor attorney, Caroline Cleveland, to review the final changes.
Great, so you're definitely reaffirming that the employees had some input into it, and the attorney was basically the last look, and then now it's to us.
Yes, yeah, so the department heads did have a say.
Thank you.
So moving on to page 3. Again, it's just another banning of retaliation Again, that's just a open shut legal one. No notes on the page 4. Essentially, this was a change. Essentially, it was up to the department head to determine whether they wanted HR to conduct the personnel investigations. I wanted to change the wording for that to where that decision essentially came from human resources. The reason for that is that the department heads don't necessarily work in a silo. One department head's decision might be different than another one, and we risk essentially unequal enforcement of several clauses. In my opinion, having that come from human resources essentially ensures that everything's standard across the board.
I
Councilman
think on that
Foley?
one, you might want to add the flexibility of adding, you can delegate the investigation process to the department head or appropriate person, because the appropriate person might not always be the department head. And it might be somebody from an outside agency, or it might be somebody that has investigative skills. That would just give you the flexibility to,
And that's a good addition in that it also doesn't restrict, the purpose of the
Right.
change as well, so,
But that should be at the discretion of the director of HR.
yes. Okay, so the next one here looks pretty straightforward. Essentially, it's having the city administrator be the one to approve investigation closeouts. I did have some input. Essentially, folks were asking if this is a change of the mayor's authority as the head of personnel, as essentially our executive. This does not change any of that. Mayor Bazell remains essentially the head of the city, and all personnel decisions still stay with the mayor. Even though Aaron's, in this case, the city administrator would do the actual day-to-day approval of that, Mayor Bazell retains the ability to overrule him in that regard. So you'll see a lot of changes around here where that essentially what I wanted to do was to make a lot of these approvals either the department head or the city administrator, and this was actually recommended to me by the labor attorney. Her words were that, she's been doing this for 35 years, she doesn't know of a city that essentially delegates all those decisions to the mayor except for ours. So she recommended that we step back from that. This does not change Mayor Bazell's ability to go in and say if he sees a discipline write-up that he does not approve of, he can instruct us to essentially to fix it.
Well, that was one of my just general comments
Sure.
because of that shift in the sense of, you said the attorney, but also the restructuring that occurred towards the end. So when I went through this document, my only concern later on is the consistency
Sure.
of that hierarchy when you go to final editing, because,
Sure.
it's somewhat, when you go through, not as clear for me anyway to see the process,
Okay.
now that it's changed.
Yeah. And that's fine. Essentially, a lot of these day-to-day personnel decisions, whether it be putting an employee on a leave of absence, or essentially extending an employee's their probation period or something like that. We wanted it to be with their department head, and then with the city administrator being the final sign-off. These are the supervisors that are seeing these employees the most from day to day. They have the best insight into what's happening day to day, and so we thought it was the most prudent to have those levels of approval. All right, so moving on to page 5. This was kind of a thought that I had. It did get signed off on, but I did want to get your opinion on it. I felt that a 30-day gap between an elected official leaving office and for them to return to city employment could essentially insulate us from any accusations of a quid pro quo in that situation, somebody using their authority as city council to secure that position and then transition into that immediately after they left. I got the 30-day window from the South Carolina retirement system. That's the window that they use for anybody that retires from their work and then wants to go back into government work. They'll have them sit out for 30 days, so that's where that came from. I'm curious as to y'all's thoughts.
That's reasonable.
I agree.
Okay.
Is there just common knowledge about what immediate family is?
Yes, so the immediate family is actually laid out in the, so it's right here, it's spouse, parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, parent-in-law,
Yeah.
grandparent-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, or immediate, families could include, you know, kids, stepbrothers, stepsisters, or anybody that's regularly domiciled in the same household.
Yep, I just wanted to make that clear for everyone as far as what
Okay.
immediate family is, just
Sure.
to be clear. Thank you.
All right, on to page 6. These were some, at least in the section 2.03. I added those because the retirement system actually has some statutes. The way it was written before was technically incorrect. For example, for temporary seasonal employees, it said they were not eligible for fringe benefits. That is not the case. They are actually legally entitled to be able to sign up for the retirement system. So to essentially get around little snafus like that, I inserted those clauses unless required by law, unless required by statute. That's where that came from. Again, 2.04, essentially having the administrator be the one that authorizes extension of probationary periods. Now, of course, as I said before, the mayor will be kept in touch with all of these decisions. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's out of the loop on any of this, nor does it mean that he can't overrule any of these decisions. It just means that in order for us to move forward, the person that we're seeking the sign off for is the city administrator.
So, are we still on page 7?
We're on page
We're on to
six.
7?
Yeah, and unless y'all wanted, that's something
No.
that y'all want to say. All right, on to page 7, again, just a language cleanup. The HR director must be kept informed of disciplinary matters. That's not a negotiable. And then just to clean up here, I made sure that the policy was consistent throughout, that it is a 6-month probationary period throughout, even in the case of promotions. Again, another change in that in case a employee is removed from their probationary period and then designated for another position in the event that they could not complete a new job that they were promoted to, ultimately that is a performance issue and that decision should be coming from the department head. All right, section 205, again still on page 7, outside employment. I wanted to make it explicit that people needed to disclose outside employment. This isn't meant to be a restriction on what they're doing outside. This is essentially to give us the opportunity to identify any potential conflicts of interest. This would be not necessarily in the case of, you know, me going out and working on the weekends at at a bar or restaurant or something like that. This would be if I had contractor work, but I'm also in charge of inspecting and permitting. So that's essentially what this is to insulate from. I also wanted to include there that, to at least make it explicit, that city employees cannot have those outside duties interfering with their primary job, which is, you know, their work here at City Hall, and, you know, service to the public.
All right, so really what you're talking about is conflict of interest, okay? So is there a conflict of interest disclosure form for all employees each year to fill out and for somebody to scrutinize and determine the level of conflict of interest?
We don't have a standard form as of yet. We typically, it's, the way that it was originally written is that upon gaining of that outside employment, they had to disclose it to their department head. Personally, I didn't feel like the way it was written really applied to people who already had outside positions when they got in, so that's what this was essentially meant to cover. But essentially making it an annual disclosure, I wouldn't be per se against it if it stayed with the HR office. But
It just seems like standard practice, standard operating procedure for most institutions to just disclose it. And, you know, if you've got to cherry pick something, you got to question it. You got an individual and say, hey, is this a conflict? Tell me a little bit more about these duties, et
Sure.
cetera. But otherwise, you know, it kind of keeps it clean in order to make sure the disclosure is always pervasive.
okay.
Because what may be a conflict to me, or not a conflict to me, may be to you, right?
Sure.
So I think there's some level of discretion, and of course, the mayor has to be involved.
Okay, I'm on to page 8. That change up at the top was a pretty standard one, since I wanted to keep this within the HR office, given that it is a conflict of interest issue, and essentially that it would be the HR office reviewing that with the presence of attorney to make that determination. All right, moving on to 2.08, political activity.
Can we back up a second to
Sure.
give some gratuities in 2.07?
Sure.
The final sentence of a determination as to whether this policy has been violated in the city's sole discretion, I would add with advice of city council or the city attorney. Get more than one head there for determination of that. That's to insulate the recipient, nothing else.
And that is standard practice. I don't think including that clause really handcuffs us in any way, so I'd be open to adding that. So on 2.08, this was essentially kind of response to one of these instances where we had somebody on a leave of absence. I believe that this entire policy could use some extra fleshing out, so to speak. Essentially how leave is accessed by candidates. So
Okay,
essentially,
so essentially, just so that I'm clear about this, what you're saying is that an employee, if they're in an election,
Mhm.
they can't use their sick time, they need to use their leave time.
exactly, yeah, just making that clear. Okay, moving on to page 9. Again, strengthening up the political activity may occur. It's not an option. It's not something that we allow here, so I figured we would strengthen up that language. And section 209, this was essentially just a clarification. I've gotten the question actually a couple times on what the definition of the city was in this instance, and to indicate that this refers to the individual in question's chain of command.
I guess the only question I had about is that process, because or can the city just go into my desk, can they?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, so there's, doesn't have to be any evidence, any impropriety, I mean,
It's public space. It is their public workspace, and so they're not guaranteed to a right to privacy where you need probable cause to be able to go in there. That is, so what you're saying is correct.
It's a good point. Any city, any electronic document on a city computer or a city email is subject to FOIA, public document, subject to limited exceptions.
and in addition to that, what this says is my desk, anything that's deemed property. I'm just- okay.
So on to page 10. There were a number of clauses here on number 3 of essentially, so a way to look at these handbooks is that, this is the line that you cannot cross. And if there's a line in there that I personally, or that we viewed as restrictive, essentially to designate 3, 15-minute breaks, essentially that's how, to be honest, we don't operate like that entirely. I figured to say that that they cannot step away from the desk in a way that conflicts with their duties is probably a better way to put that, and also gives the management the flexibility to be able to make that determination as well.
Common sense.
It is common sense, but who makes that call that someone's on a personal call and it becomes a conflict to their duties?
That would be the supervisor. And the employee would have the ability, if they say they disagreed with that, to be able to escalate that to either human resources or the department head.
So then why wouldn't we put that in the process so that it's clear that it's a process?
We can put that in there.
In the sense of, it's a supervisor's role to determine the duties, and indeed, if it is a conflict, and then that triggers some kind of process.
I'm also gonna put in a note that might be its own standalone section, just to be clear,
I
essentially
agree.
saying that
I-
this applies to the whole book, so.
I mean, there's a lot of judgment call in that, the documentation.
There is.
So,
Okay, on to section 212, accidents involving city vehicles. This was a legal addition by the city attorney, wanted to make sure that he had a carve out for that, given that we are a municipality that has a police force on it. And then to add on that AHR should be consulted before the drug screen is scheduled. So drug screening for employees, that is a Fourth Amendment issue. You do need probable cause for that, so unlike the city desks. So this is essentially ensuring that a supervisor doesn't necessarily jump the gun on that, and that this is being applied legally and equitably. The way it was written, essentially, you know, Supervisor A's probable cause might look a little bit different than Supervisor B's probable cause. This is ensuring that everything's uniform across the board. Okay, on page 12, a bit of clarity, saying that police reports are required to be submitted. Essentially, you can't, you know, get an offender bender and then sit on the report. Seems like that would be, you know, clear, but also, you know, better spell it out explicitly. And then the item 9 there, the 3 or more moving violations or accidents in as many years. That's actually from our risk management, Schmidt, South Carolina Municipal Insurance Trust. That's a recommendation that they have, that should be standard policy. Okay, moving on to page 13, so this is a pretty big one here. This is establishing an accident review board. This is something that I got from one of our sister municipalities, essentially a formal way to review the accidents with disciplinary authority, a better way to document these, and I believe having the proceedings be official is probably a better way to institute discipline. And I thought it would be a good addition for City Hall.
and the attorney reviewed all,
Yes.
And there's not a fiscal note on this either.
I'm sorry?
There's not a fiscal note on this, is there? I mean, this is all internal.
Right.
If there was an accident review board, so you handle it without any cost overruns.
Right now, this would be,
All right.
you know, the board meeting in this room.
All right.
And then just, so the cost side of that will be time.
Well, the board is made up of employees.
It is, yes.
Anderson, you need to clarify who the chairman of that board is, though. Your intention is that it be the director of HR.
That's correct. Yes.
Right.
Fortunately, that one goes on for several pages. Moving on to page 15, just one more, Article 2. I did put a recording policy on there. These are coming more common. Essentially not outright banning recording unto itself, but as long as it's actually within your job duties, that there's a purpose to it. And I'm also, I also put a note in there, something that I do want to add. I was gonna put in a note saying nothing in this policy is meant to supersede either state or federal regulation.
That should be an open disclaimer at the beginning of the document.
Right, well, it comes up a couple times, actually. So on to page 16, so the merit increases, we haven't been calling them that for a while. We call them retention incentives, so this was kind of cleaning up the language on that, as well as just, in my opinion, kind of putting it like this kind of reads a little bit better. In my opinion, this wasn't more of a substantive change, it's more of a aesthetic change. On to 17, specifically the virtual work policies. A lot of people were expecting an actual concrete virtual work policy here. The reason why we didn't do that is because if it's going to be in this handbook, it's going to be applied to the entire city. A virtual work policy in this building is going to look a lot different than what it's going to look in that building. So as opposed to laying out the actual virtual work policy here, we are going to give, essentially, department heads the ability to propose virtual work policies, but they need to be approved by 3 people, myself, Aaron as city administrator, and mayor, the mayor himself.
So working remotely.
Mhm.
I guess not really sure in the sense of, so this is basically, we're all in the field of public service.
Mhm.
So I guess the one question I would have is the purpose of working remotely? And then the equity of consistently doing that as far as oversight. So are we saying that the process is, in the sense of, how are you going to regulate how often people work remotely, or is it certain departments? I'm asking the bigger question, the bigger.
Sure, and this doesn't necessarily get into the specifics of that, because this is essentially permitting the city to create work policies if it so chooses. That's essentially what this does.
It's at the discretion of the department head, so I mean, that's.
I know, but then my point is if each department head has that, where is the equity in that, in the sense of, so as if it's just by department and it's other duties as assigned and they could be, part of my job description? I'm just asking because
Well, one of
it's,
the reasons that they are, getting the ultimate approval, not just because it's a big deal when it comes to actually day-to-day operation and they need to be in the know of it, but also to make sure that it is equitable to a sense that, the functions of the city can still function.
so is it a process? Do they, is there documentation? I'm just asking, it doesn't have to be in here, but then there's a policy or a procedure.
Right, it would be a written policy, they would have to propose a actual fully fleshed out written
So
policy.
we're gonna work on that.
Yeah, but you got a policy and then it has to be approved by him, Aaron, and
And then all
myself.
three. The number two is essentially, what that refers to is like actually an individual going like, hey, say I've got a medical emergency downtown, I can't make it in, but I still have my laptop, I wanna be able to work in the waiting room. Well, then that's what number two's at,
Yep.
which is essentially the department head being able to
Mhm.
authorize that specific work.
I
But as
understand.
far as the actual policy goes, they do have to get approval with the three parties mentioned, and equitability is essentially one of the things that we are looking at.
Thank you.
Anderson, just a quick question.
Yes,
I don't know if you mentioned this. When's the last time this was revised?
2020,
2020.
yes,
So during COVID.
yes.
So during COVID, there must have been some policies put in here to reflect work from home or remote work or something like that.
There was not.
There was not. So, okay. Now you're reflecting them. All
What's
right.
that? As
Or
well-
you will reflect.
Well, I'll be honest, there wasn't a ton of remote work going on. We were in those trailers at
Yes,
this
I know
time.
that.
But,
I know that.
but that essentially was what brought about the need to have it in the handbook to authorize the city to be able to do something like that.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to section 304, overtime and comp time. So I just added some clauses on comp time. For example, that comp time can only be earned with the approval of the department head. Essentially, hey, if I'm gonna work overtime in a manner that's gonna create a liability on our books, the department head who manages that budget needs to be aware of that. Going on to section B here, the previous maximum for comp time for public safety was 480 hours and 240 for administrative personnel. We are proposing that we lower that to 100 hours as to essentially prevent runaway comp time balances.
That would make me very happy.
That's a big budget impact if you overrun.
It can be, and they can run up a lot quicker than a lot of people realize. And then last, we just put in a clause there, essentially what happens when somebody goes from hourly to salary, what happens with their comp time.
And Anderson, no pressure, we've got about 9 more minutes. So if you wanna highlight the big
They
stuff.
should put a clock up at the front.
Well, I'm sorry, won't we do it the next work session?
And we can definitely continue it if we don't.
Rather than,
Let's give it.
Okay, moving on, got a section here on page 19, essentially what we do, we actually don't have a set procedure when it comes to pay discrepancy, when we find that there's some sort of human error in somebody's timesheet or the actual payout itself, and this essentially lays out essentially how those are handled, whether it's the employee was overpaid or underpaid.
so I just had a question to go back to it. So what happens when someone works in another department? Is that, how is that counted in the sense, you know, say they help on a special event, so on and so forth, is that, and it's not within their department?
So even if it's out of the department, if they're still working for, the way to look at this is they're still working for the
Right.
seal, it's still hours
Right,
worked.
so that's why I asked that question. So you oversee, let's say it is a special event.
Mhm.
So you're going down to 100, you're the one that's gonna be checking that, so that,
Yeah,
with
so-
the department heads.
So you're talking about the comp time?
Yes,
Yes, yes, so whenever somebody submits their timesheet, it still goes to their primary supervisor.
Mhm.
So even if they're working outside of the department, now they check with the other department, hey, is this still a legitimate time entry? They do, but it's still all under the same, that same
Right,
primary
so
department.
all I'm saying is you're going from 240 to 100, so there's going to be some real, then, regulation to get to the 100 and give people communication, or, okay.
Yeah, essentially, our system, our actual payroll system can handle that change, and it's not that they're ineligible for nothing, they just get it paid out as overtime as opposed to that, getting it saved as leave.
Yep, yep.
Any questions on the pay discrepancy page? On page 20, just essentially instructing supervisors to make sure that they're sending folks to optional trainings, that they're signing reimbursement forms to make sure the city's compensated if somebody uses that training and then immediately leaves employment.
And don't rush. We'll get through what we get through.
Okay, sounds good. All right, on page 21, this was pretty much, that number 5 there is codifying a practice that was already kind of in effect, essentially requiring folks to turn in their proper disaster forms. Essentially, to have the disaster pay policy apply to you, you need to be in compliance with the disaster pay policy. It's pretty straightforward. Section 308, that's essentially just clarifying how the performance evaluations are done. I just figured that paragraph needs some fleshing out.
Wouldn't it make more sense to do performance evaluations with anniversary dates? Since that's when raises.
It's a lot harder to track, and typically people, you know, they form committees whenever they're doing these evaluations, so it's easier for them to actually knock them all out at the same time.
Really? We are doing, the raises come in, your pay raises come in on your anniversary date.
It's on the fiscal year.
I thought we changed that.
No, sir, we discussed it, but we did not change it. It's the fiscal year for ease of administration.
Andrew, let's cut it now, because I don't want you, you put a lot of work in this, let's just
Yeah.
take our time.
About halfway done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still
No,
got
that was
halfway
great.
there.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, yes.
So we'll continue the rest next month.
All right.
If you got any notes though, please let me know.
All right, we got about 10 minutes, so we'll be back at 7.
Thank you.